Hi there, this is David and welcome to the Top 10 PlayStation Towns, Non-Square or Enix Edition. While the SNES ushered in the golden age of JRPGs, the original PlayStation kept it going strong, so here, I've decided that I'll be giving this system the same treatment that I gave to the SNES with 3 videos dedicated to towns. One for the Final Fantasy games released on the system, one for other Square or Enix titles, and then this one, which will highlight all the great towns created by other, lesser-known developers. So, let's get started. Number 10. Alundra, Inoa Village. I can't help but be reminded of the Heaven and Earth Quintet trilogy on the SNES whenever I play this exceptionally hard gem. Delving into dreams to save townsfolk is straight out of Soul Blazer, but it's much more well done here. The village is the hub town for the entirety of Alundra, and for the most part, the entire game takes place there. You're kind of just running around from dream to dream. This really allows you to develop a true, personal relationship with each villager as you attempt to save them from their nightmares. The dialogue is always changing, and the village itself is pretty big, dwarfing many other towns of the time in comparison. It's easy to get lost in before you finally get familiar with the layout. I just love that you can really get to know each and every inhabitant, learn about their religion and culture, and of course, save them from the evil nightmares that plague the entire village. Number 9. Thousand Arms, Mountain Hand. They don't make games like this anymore, ones that just revel in their own strangeness, and the towns are no exception. Each and every one of them are unique, and they're absolutely huge. The variety of them ranges from traditional medieval and Far Eastern towns, to towns situated on pirate ships, to Mountain Hand, a whole city built on a moving train. This is probably the most steampunk-inspired locale, and as such it has quite a dirty feel to it. But not just in the brown and gray way, also in the cursing way, but bleeping out curses is part of the course for this oddball RPG. And let's not forget this guy's thong being thrown into your face. Bandigear, the best character in the game, is introduced here. Number 8. Lunar Silver Star Story Complete, Vayne. I know some people might not appreciate working designs and their sense of humor, but I felt that the characterization they gave to the inhabitants of Lunar made the game that much more magical. Towns are always fun to explore, and talking to NPCs is a treat, not a chore. But let's get to the towns. The metropolis of Meribia came as a close second, with its winding streets, mysterious fortune teller, and Ramus's store. But I've got to give the prize to Vayne. I like a town with a sense of history and grandeur. Floating above the rest of civilization, Vayne is very similar to Zeal of Chrono Trigger, even falling to the ground later on. We'll also meet up with another party member, Mia, and her mother, Limia, a legendary hero herself. Most importantly though, we run into Galleon for the first time, who everyone seems to look up to. Then, hysterically, Nash blows a gasket when we violate Mia's chamber. Number 7. Breath of Fire 3, Windia. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Coming to Windia is an experience, a momentous occasion in each game of the series. But something about the kingdom in this installment just feels majestic. I love the music, the paved streets alive with vendors, the many shops and the sprawling castle, as well as the mausoleum and the catacombs. I would go so far as to say that Windia is the most technologically advanced city in the world, and meeting Nina is always a joy, even if it is under some rather unfortunate circumstances. After being kidnapped by Bale and Sunder, they take you here, only for all 3 of you to be locked up as a group of con artists. Nina, a bit too naive for her own good, frees you shortly thereafter, and now that Tipo and Ray are gone, your real adventure can finally begin. Number 6. Grandia, New Parm. This series had large, vibrant towns which were fun to explore. Rather than being simple diversions, each town had its own mystery and storyline that tied it into the main quest, which fit perfectly with its theme of adventure. When you enter a new town in Grandia, you really have no idea what to expect. The developers went above and beyond here. They're large. Every conversation that you have with townsfolk are funny, and there were always hidden secrets. But really, Is there anything better than a lively, bustling port town? New Parm is where the game truly begins, in a whole new world where Justin is away from his mother, but he's just met the love of his life, Fina. He's now ready to finally become an adventurer, though it won't be easy because Fina's so-called fiancé, this snot-nosed little shit right here, will do everything in his power to keep him from realizing his dreams. Number 5. Wild Arms, Adelhide. This old Western-inspired RPG has some great towns, from Baskar Village to the Elven Uhl Village to the ruined ice-encased Arctica. They were all well done and unique, but the regal, sprawling kingdom of Adelhide takes the cake for me. In fact, it's the only kingdom remaining in the entire world. Every other location is pretty much a frontier village just barely clinging on to survival. But not here. Adelhide is bustling with activity, with Ruins Festival coming into the full swing. It's here in Cecilia's hometown that your three heroes meet up and decide to journey across the entirety of Legaia to defeat the demon threat after they ravage the city, murder the king, and abscond with the golems in their attempt to steal the magical teardrop. The funeral procession and subsequent symbolic cutting of her hair is just so moving, I couldn't overlook this gem. Number 4. Legend of Legaia, Rim Elm. While this town is rather unfortunately named, Rim Elm is a starting town that perfectly sets the stage for the rest of the game to follow. It's built like a fortress, completely walled off from the rest of the world, with only skilled hunters venturing beyond the gates to forage for food in the wilderness, and then only when the mist recedes. And who can forget that night, with the sense of dread that you felt as the mist engulfed the city and monsters breached the walls, killing residents left and right. This is the fear that the residents of Legaia live in. It actually kind of reminds me of Game of Thrones. Even though this is a starting town, and I do try to avoid them on these lists, it's so well done and it sets the stage for everything else to come so brilliantly, I really could not leave it off. Number 3. Mega Man Legends, Cadillac's Island. This entire game just oozes personality, from the NPCs to the antagonists, to Mega Man himself. So much love was put into this gem and it shows. All the townsfolk have their own story that you can follow along with, and much like Earthbound, you can check all sorts of objects for treasure, even trash cans. And when you're not exploring, you're fighting, right in the heart of the city. It just goes to show how expansive this place is, since it doubles as an entire battlefield. And speaking of battles, an interesting take is that the bosses can destroy buildings in the town, and depending on how much is damaged, you'll either have to spend a boatload to rebuild or not much at all. Riding on top of the cars is a bunch of fun, and standing on the rooftops to take the entire village in, it's an experience like none other. Number 2. Legend of Dragoon, Bale. As some of you may know, I'm not really a big fan of this game. The battle system was just far too slow, additions were a pain, magic was completely useless, and the item management was straight out of NES Dragon Warrior games. But all that aside, I can concede that it did have some spectacular towns. They were all a blast to explore, with hidden items around every turn, and a feeling of discovery when you happened upon a hidden route or alleyway. The pre-rendered backgrounds were gorgeous too, and nothing encapsulates all this like the capital of Sergio, Bale. This steampunk-inspired, autumnal industrial town reminds me a lot of Alexandria from Final Fantasy IX. Tucked away among the houses is Lavitz's home, and his replacement, King Albert, rules over the land. From the high-up turrets overlooking the farmlands to the canal system below, there's a lot of good stuff packed into this golden kingdom. And finally, number 1, Suikoden II, your headquarters. Cheers had it right. You want to go where everybody knows your name, and what could be better than building and exploring a castle that you've designed yourself, filled to the brim with all of your party members. It has a wonderful atmosphere of friendliness about it, because everybody here are comrades. It's absolutely charming, with a sense of life. People are always moving all over the place, and you feel like you're really making a difference as you further its development. There's no better feeling in the world than checking back on the castle after a big recruitment drive to see how it's all expanded, where the people decided to settle, and who made friends with whom. There's all sorts of hidden events scattered around, and the setting on the overworld is ethereal. Just look at how it's set on a plateau surrounded by fog, canyons, and mountains. It's just magical. No other castle in this series came close to the one established in Suikoden II. Well, that's it for the top 10, but let's get some honorable mentions in for Newestat of Tales of Destiny, the Fairy Village from Breath of Fire 4, and Pangui from Guardians Crusade. This has been David. If you like this, please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good day.